So welcome to my second football video on my YouTube channel Ash Talk Sport, and this video is about reviewing the weekend's Premier League games and a few of my thoughts. We'll start with the games that were played on Friday night, and Brighton drew 0-0 with Burnley. Both teams, Brighton currently in 16th, Burnley 19th. I think both sides will take the positives that they kept a clean sheet, that they've both earned a point. And I felt both sides actually played quite well. I quite like the way Brighton play their pass and move football and keep in possession. And I think Burnley will always try their hardest, and you're always going to be in for a tough game. I felt both sides actually created quite a lot of chances, and there was just no clinical edge up front to put the ball in the back of the net. So I think that's a concern for Brighton. And as I've said, I think Brighton will struggle to stay up because of the lack of goals. I do think Burnley will turn things around. Sean Dyche gets the best out of those players, and they will run through brick walls for him. And he's had a lot of injury problems, and when you're missing 2 or 3 or more of your better players, then results are normally going to struggle. And he didn't really bring anyone in the summer, so I think there's probably a little lack of confidence at Burnley at the moment because they haven't won a game, but I do see Burnley turning it around and getting out of. The other game Friday night, and I watched it, Southampton beating Newcastle 2-0. Southampton in 4th position at the moment under Ralph Hasenhüttl. Southampton are really enjoying their football. They look at going forward all the time. They've got plenty of pace, and they're proving me wrong. I actually thought they would be in a relegation battle this season because I felt that they were going to rely too much on Danny Ings scoring goals. But I think they've got a good squad of players. Ward-Prowse is scoring goals. You've got Nathan Redmond, Di Gianeppo. So I think there are other players, and Che Adams is starting to score a few goals now. So it was a good win for Southampton and a good clean sheet, and they're up to 4th. And it just shows what a really good job Ralph Hasenhüttl is doing as a manager. And the way he manages Southampton and the football that they play actually reminds me quite a bit of how Jurgen Klopp is as a manager and the way Liverpool play. So I certainly think Southampton are in a great position at the moment, and they'll be looking at getting in the top half, maybe pushing for that 7th spot, that extra Europa League place. And you have to give the board at Southampton and Ralph Hasenhüttl, the manager, great credit. It was just, I think, over a year ago when they lost 9-0 to Leicester City. And I think Ralph Hasenhüttl at the time actually offered his resignation, but the board didn't accept it, and it would have been very easy to give up on a manager and sack him, but it showed that they had great belief in him as a manager, and he's paid them back in spades. For Newcastle, I think you're going to get inconsistency from Newcastle this season. I think the Newcastle fans also need to lower their expectancy a little bit. I think Mike Ashley, a man that wants to sell the club, is still putting money into the football club. I think Steve Bruce is a very experienced manager at this level. And, I thought he brought some good, solid English players into the squad this season. Jeff Hendricks from Burnley, solid defender. Callum Wilson, I think one of the best strikers in the Premier League. Jamal Lewis, a young defender from Norwich that can only improve and get better. And also Ryan Fraser, which, I like him. He looks to go forward. He can score goals, he can assist, and he was quite pivotal for Bournemouth for quite a while. And at the moment, Newcastle are in 13th, but I think if Steve Bruce can get Newcastle into the top half this season and maybe challenge for one of the cup competitions, I think that's a good season. I think Newcastle fans should give Steve Bruce a little bit more respect. And you've allowed Rafa Benitez to really make you a bit delusional. You're criticising Steve Bruce for his style of football, but please tell me when Rafa Benitez made Newcastle entertaining and exciting and played lots of attacking football, because I really can't remember Benitez producing that. And I agreed with what Roy Keane said the other week in the studio. Even when Newcastle were exciting to watch, they didn't win anything. So just get a little bit more realistic. Just going into Saturday's games, the early kick-off, my Everton losing 3-1 to Manchester United. That's 4 games now without a win for Everton. That early season momentum has just gone down a little bit. I still thought we played quite well going forward. We created a few chances, but we didn't take them. We weren't clinical enough. I think defensively we were poor, which has surprised me, because Michael Keane and Mina actually started the season quite well. But we just allowed Fernandes for the first goal, a free run into the penalty box and a header. The second one he scored, that Rashford attempted to head. Again, we allowed Rashford to just stand free in the penalty area. And then we were hit, right at the end by Fernandes and Cavani, obviously trying to get a draw. But defensively, we weren't good enough. We need to turn it around quite quickly after the international break, because there was hope of Everton being in the title race, and the league is still open, so if we could turn it around, there is that opportunity. But for me, I would just prefer that we look at trying to get into that top 4, top 6 position and getting some European football at Everton. And I think we should be focusing more on trying to win the FA Cup or the League Cup, because I think it's about time at Everton we try and win a trophy. Also, I still think, if we have Rodriguez or Alan or Decore or Richarlison out of the squad, or Digne, we look still quite bang average. And although Calvert-Lewin has been in great form, if he gets injured or he has a little bit of a dip, I worry where the goals are going to come from. But I think it's going to take a little bit of time for Carlo Ancelotti to get us competing and getting all the players that he wants in the club. So again, I think as an Everton fan, you want to get excited and have that hope. But again, we've got to be a little bit realistic. And we are conceding quite a fair few goals lately. Manchester United, I think they're 14th now, but it's a good win for them. And for some reason, when Ollie comes under pressure, he seems to get himself out of it with a win. And look, I think Manchester United have some very good players in that squad. And it surprises me that they're so low in the table. There's a lot of attacking talent in that team, and there's plenty of players that can get them goals. I think defensively is where United have struggled. I think there's a lot. I still rate Harry Maguire. I still think he's a good defender. He did a good job for Leicester. He played well for England when we were at the World Cup. I think there's been a lot of things in his personal life, and that might have sidetracked him. But I thought he was brilliant against Everton and showed what he's about on Saturday. I think Lindelof isn't good enough, and I think Bailly and Shaw aren't good enough. I think Wan-Bissaka can improve, but I don't think he tracks back enough. He likes to go forward. And De Gea hasn't really performed for the last couple of years, so why not stick Dean Henderson in there? But I think if United can get their defence sorted out, they should be looking really at getting back into the top 4 again. But they're a long way off that at the moment. But it was a good victory for them. Into, I think, the 3 o'clock kickoff, which was Crystal Palace beating Leeds 4-1. Great result for Crystal Palace. I thought they were excellent. Saturday. They were going forward with pace, and they were ruthless in front of goal. And I think that was a really good performance from Crystal Palace. To win 4-1 against Leeds is a great victory to savour. And they're 8th in the Premier League, and I really don't get the criticism that Roy Hodgson is getting either. You know, he's a dinosaur, his football's boring, you know, we need to change manager. Why? You don't have a big budget. You know, if he keeps you up in the Premier League, for me, that's a good season. And I think he's got a real good mix of players. He's got your experienced players like Cahill and Scott Dann. And then you've got Zaha, who's a match winner. You've got Eze, who's a good young upcoming player. So I think there's a real good mix at Palace. You're in the top half of the table at the moment. You've beat Leeds, you beat Manchester United. You know, what's the problem there? Leeds, you know, that's a second heavy defeat. Another 4-1 defeat after they lost to Leicester. But I don't think Leeds were that bad. I thought they created quite a lot of chances. They just didn't take them. I don't think Bamford's goal should have been disallowed by VAR with his arm pointing. You know, how ridiculous. He's not going to score with his arm, and he's just pointed where he wants the ball to be played. How can you call that offside? But I think Leeds will be a bit hit and miss like that this season. You know, I think they play terrific football. I really enjoy watching Leeds, and how quick they go from defence to attack is just exhilarating for me. And, you know, this is a team that came up from the Championship. Their aim this season is just to stay in the Premier League. And, you know, I think they've had some really good performances against Man City, Liverpool. They beat Fulham quite well. You know, Leeds will, you know, have good and bad results, but I think they will have enough to stay up. And they're quite a hard team to predict where they will finish this season. But I like Bielsa as a manager. His attention to detail. I think he has one of the fittest teams in the league. I just think maybe Leeds are missing their crowd at Elland Road, because can you imagine the atmosphere at Elland Road in the Premier League? You know, would just be phenomenal. And I think they're missing a little bit of that, actually, without the fans. But I really think over the next 3-4 years, Leeds will just get stronger and stronger, and they'll be back amongst the elite. You know, it's a really good football club. You know, and I think Bielsa, they dust themselves down, and there go again, Leeds. The evening kickoff was Chelsea 4, Sheffield United 1. I have to say I'm quite impressed with Chelsea. You know, very direct play. They've got all the attacking talent in the world. They've got goals for me all over the pitch. And they were very good against Sheffield United. Defensively, they've improved. I thought they had 4 clean sheets in a row in all competitions. I know they conceded on Saturday, but I think Thiago Silva, you know, it took a little bit of time for him to settle in and get used to the pace of the Premier League. But I think Chelsea are looking dangerous if they can sort and keep that defence going well. There's no reason for me why they can't be in the title race. And Mendy is a much better keeper than Kepa, and that gives your defence a lot of confidence. But it was a good performance, good win for Chelsea. Sheffield United struggling for confidence. You know, they haven't won a game, but they've had quite a tough run. You know, they've had to play Liverpool, I think Man City, Chelsea. I think they've played Arsenal in this run. So I think the confidence is a little bit down because they haven't got that win yet. But again, I think they will always give you a hard game. I think it was quite a poor performance against Chelsea. They didn't work together as a team. They were second to most balls, and they were ball watching quite a bit in the penalty area defensively. And you can't do that against teams like Chelsea. As you saw, you'll be punished. But I do think Chris Wilder, you know, he will get them going, and I think they will have enough to get out of the predicament that they're in. And he's done an amazing job at Sheffield United, so I don't think he should come under any pressure. And I think they had a great season last year in the Premier League. And I thought at the before the season started, that they would be 14th, 15th, that kind of position this year. I just worry where their goals are going to come from. I think they are going to lack goals. So defensively, they've just got to improve. But I'm sure they'll turn it around. In the 8 o'clock kickoff, it was West Ham 1, Fulham 0. Great win for West Ham. I think they're in 11th now after that win. And I'm really pleased for David Moyes, an old Evertonian manager. And I think if you give him time and you give him the tools and you back him, he will do a good job at West Ham. One thing David Moyes will instill is hard work ethic, and that you give 100% every time you go out on that pitch, and you have to earn the right to play some decent football. And that is what David Moyes expects. And I think, he can get West Ham in the top half of the Premier League for sure. They've got the players, they've got some very good players there. And maybe even push for that 7th position for that Europa League spot. And I think West Ham will do quite well in the cup competitions as well. I think Moyes will want to win one of them. But, I think they played some terrific football against Fulham. Areola, the Fulham keeper, had to make 4 or 5 really good saves, else West Ham could have scored more goals. I think there was... I think the goal that West Ham scored, I think there was an offside thing that VAR didn't give, but they got the goal, and they kept a clean sheet. But Fulham, I've said I think Fulham will go down. But what the hell was Lookman doing with that penalty? Just hit the bloody ball as hard as you can at the goal. Why are you trying to do all these silly little tricks in the 90th minute when you're 1-0 down? If he'd scored and they got a 1-1 draw, it would have been a good result. It would have given them a bit of confidence, getting a point away from home. And then you've taken that silly penalty, and you've let your manager and your players down. And that is something that could really knock the whole team's confidence going forward. Look, I'm sure he'll learn from that mistake and he won't try it a second time. But I also ask why Mitrovic didn't take the penalty. Disappointing result for Fulham, really, for me. Going into Sunday, West Brom 0, Tottenham 1. I actually thought West Brom played some decent football. They looked the better team. Again, they weren't ruthless enough. They lacked that cutting edge, someone to put the ball in the net. And then defensively, for me, they're not good enough. So it was a disappointing result for West Brom. I think they're going to be in a relegation battle. For me, I think they will go down this season. For Tottenham, not the prettiest of performances and probably not pretty football, but this is what Mourinho does. He finds a way to win games, and he'll be pleased they kept a clean sheet. They've won 1-0. They've got the 3 points. Harry Kane scored. And I think Tottenham will definitely be in the title race this year, especially with that front three of Bale, Kane and Son. And I think Mourinho has a really good squad there. And I think, he would love to... He's won the Premier League 3 times, so he knows how to win this league. And he will target the League Cup, the FA Cup and the Europa League. But good win for Tottenham. Not at their best, but got the result. Then it was Leicester 1, Wolves 0. I thought first half, Leicester were a much better team. Wolves didn't really turn up in the first half. And Vardy scored another goal. For me, one of the best strikers in the Premier League. Scored a penalty. I think it was a penalty. And then he missed another one, didn't he? But I really like the way Leicester play football. I think Brendan Rodgers is a really good manager. The club is progressing forwards. They've got a really good squad. They keep the ball well. They're very good in possession, solid at the back. You know, they know how to keep clean sheets, and they can be very patient, Leicester. They can mix it up going forward. They can play that direct pass or that long ball for Vardy to get on the end of, or they can just keep the ball and be very patient and try and pull you out of position. But a great win for Leicester, top of the league. Can they go on and be in the title race? I think so, but they've got to keep Jamie Vardy fit. Wolves, another good side. I like the manager, I like the squad. They're a progressive football club. Again, I like the way that they play football. They look at going forwards all the time. They've just been a little bit inconsistent lately. They'll be disappointed by that defeat. But I think the first half cost them because they didn't turn up in that first half. They played much better in the second half, but they found it very difficult to keep, get a goal. Man City won, Liverpool won. I thought it was a good first half. I thought both sides went at it, and then the second half it just died a bit, and I think both of them accepted that they were going to take a draw in the end, and they weren't going to risk losing the game. I think both sides will take a point. I think the result will probably please Liverpool a bit more than Man City, because Man City have now drawn 3. As I said, Liverpool are still probably my favourites to go on and win the league, but they're still going to be a bit more vulnerable now without Van Dijk. And Man City, they're not scoring a lot of goals. I think they've only scored 8 or 9 or 10 goals in their 8 games or 7 games so far. So I think they're missing Aguero a huge amount, and Gabriel Jesus has to step up to Aguero's level. And I just don't know where Man City are at the moment. I think there are question marks over them. Are they in a little bit of a transitional period again? I don't know, but I still think City will be up there come the end of the season because they can score goals from all over the pitch. But I think they'll take a point against Liverpool. Then it was Arsenal 0, Aston Villa 3. Firstly, Aston Villa to be 6th in the Premier League, they deserve huge credit. And I think Dean Smith deserves a huge amount of praise. He went through a difficult time last year. I think he lost his dad. And he didn't really allow that to affect things on the pitch. And he got a lot of criticism because they spent £143 million, but he managed to keep them up. And, I think he's recruited very well. He got Martinez from Arsenal, who was stupid to let go, the goalkeeper. I think Tyrone Mings, McGinn, Grealish, are the core of that team. And then you've added Ross Barkley, who's got a point to prove. His career's gone a bit downward since he left Everton. It didn't work at Chelsea, and he's out of the England squad, and he'll want to get back into it. So, a hungry player is one to watch out for, and Barkley's got a point to prove. Ollie Watkins has stepped up from Brentford and scoring goals. So that is what Villa lacked last season, and they've now got plenty of players for me that can assist and can score goals. I think if they can get in the top half this season, it would be a great season, maybe target the FA Cup. But, Grealish for me is world class. And Gareth Southgate, going into this international break, please play Jack Grealish. He is the one that can make things happen for England. He's making things happen for Villa. He's plenty of assists, plenty of goals. Please play him. And it's a terrific result for Villa. Arsenal, absolutely shambolic defending. No communication, all over the place. I really question whether they can battle and whether they have fight in their belly sometimes, because when they put in a bad performance, and they roll over. And I've been saying this for the last 10, 11 years. They are good at going forward with the ball, but they are shambolic at the back. But for me, under Arteta, they're being very cautious at the moment, and they did not create a lot of chances. You know, when Partey come off, they just didn't have anything in midfield. Lacazette is missing easy chances. He should be putting them away, and they're relying too much on Aubameyang. They've won 4, lost 4, so there's a lot of inconsistency for me still with Arsenal. Arteta, very inexperienced as a manager. Has he really improved them? I don't know. They're more of a cup team for me at the moment, but to do well in a league or a Champions League, you need to do well at both ends of the pitch. And there's still a lot of question marks for me with Arsenal. So that's my review of the weekend. As a Swindon fan as well, an absolute embarrassing exit in the first round of the FA Cup to Darlington. Not really a good performance. Darlington showed that they wanted it more, so it was more misery for Swindon. That's my review of this weekend's Premier League.